I have a plan to do it, right? And so I know what it takes, so I just knew early on I was not going to do well, but I had a plan in place, and I just had to keep, people, my managers like, hey, listen, this is going to turn over. I promise.
Yeah.
I promise. And when it started turning over, they were like, hey, like, we're really happy this finally happened.
For sure. What's going on, guys? Austin Zaback here with another episode of the Austin Zaback Show. I have a very special guest named Anthony Andre, and he's a guy that we're actually starting to do a little bit of business together, but he's somebody that I look up to, and he's got a really cool story of how he got to where he's at. Extremely, extremely successful. Actually, probably should have been potentially in the NFL, and we'll get into that here a little bit more in a little while, but played football, really good football player, and ended up getting injured. Now he's a serial entrepreneur, owns multiple companies, again, extremely successful, and I'm excited to just kind of dive into your story, how you got to where you're at, and just provide whatever golden nuggets we can to the audience. I appreciate you being here, brother.
I appreciate it. I'm gonna cut that, and I'm gonna have that on my Instagram at all times so people know.
You gotta love that, dude.
Yeah.
You gotta love that. So we've been talking for a while, man, and we actually are doing a little bit of lead generation now together. We were actually just talking about that before the show, and so I guess we'll kind of go into what you're doing right now, and then in a little while we'll kind of backtrack a little bit how you got to where you're at. But right now you own, so I guess I don't even fully understand the structure of what it is that you do, but I know you're in the title industry primarily. Obviously you're a serial entrepreneur.
Right.
So what does that look like? Do you own these title companies, or what does that look like?
No. So it's kind of hard for other states to realize, but title in California is completely separate from escrow. So your title reps are essentially, I would say, high-level marketing reps, where they help you kind of build your business. They help you figure out ways to get more deals. And so, title reps in California can make a ton of money because, they're essentially very, very integral parts of a real estate organization, right? But through that, for me, I started 8 years ago in the title industry, but I started seeing things that I could do, or people that I envied, like yourself, Adrian Hernandez, guys that were doing, their main thing, but they also were, learning about how to wholesale, learning about how to, fix and flip. And I took the knowledge that I'm gaining on the title side, because again, the biggest thing, and this is data, right? Is looking at data, looking at trends, and kind of seeing what that next pocket is going to be. And so for me, I love looking at data. So through the title side, I was able to kind of really hone my skills on the data analytics side, and then that led me to be able to kind of dive into some other things like wholesaling and going into other markets, like here, Texas, Florida, and just connecting up with people and saying, hey, here's what I see happening. Here's the numbers in your area. Do you want to partner up? And so the title thing is always going to be my main thing, because I love doing it. It's really, really fun to help someone that, let's say when you start with them, they do 10 deals, and then the next year they're doing 25. That building with them and being a part of the story is really important, and I love doing that. And again, it always keeps me sharp on the data side, so that has allowed me to kind of build, what I'm doing. For sure.
When you got out, so let's backtrack a little bit, and we'll tie right into that story. You grew up playing football, and you were, basically on track. Obviously, sounded like you had a very athletic desire to achieve. I mean, when you look at an athlete wants to achieve, and typically an athlete wants to go all the way with whatever it is that they do, right? Which in your case would obviously have been the NFL,
right?
I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
And so walk me through like what happened there, and then how did that transition go from getting injured to getting into the title world? I mean, what did that look like?
It was kind of a funny story. So basically, in high school, I was, a top-rated recruit. I was doing really well, got hurt, and that was my first taste of, kind of seeing things through the lens of your current situation, not what you think you are, right? And so I thought I was up here. But again, colleges look at, injury history, stuff like that. So as soon as that happened, I got moved down list. Ended up going to college in Utah at Weber State, which was a fantastic time. I remember when I got there in January, I literally got out of the car in rainbow flip-flops, and it was like 6 degrees. And I was like, oh, this is a different area. So it was a good experience to have. Got done there and started playing in the arena leagues. Played in the arena leagues for like 4 or 5 years, and then throughout that time, would work out for NFL teams in the off season. My last one was with the Seahawks, and that was Russell Wilson's rookie year. We were at the practice facility, and I ended up getting hurt. Fortunately for me, my entire family is in real estate. So let me name these ones off. My sister is an agent. My stepmother is an agent. My aunt is an agent. My grandmother is an agent and still practicing. And then my dad is in title as well. And so my aunt and my uncle own and operate a real estate company together. So for me, when I was an athlete, I wanted nothing to do with real estate because I'm sure you know this, every function turns into a real estate discussion, right? It's like, how many deals are you doing? Like what's up with that listing that you have?
Yep.
And I never wanted to be a part of that. I just wanted to be an athlete and kind of go that route. But when that was taken away, literally I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? Like, what am I gonna do with my life? And I was just lucky enough to my dad was just like, hey, like, I really love doing this. And my dad had an even crazier story than me. My dad drove trucks for 20 years and then got into the title industry at 40 and is now Ticor Title's best rep in all of California. So when he got into it, he had been in it 7 or 8 years and just told me like, hey, this will fit what you do. You're highly competitive. Title is a highly competitive industry in California. And this will be good for you. And for me, honestly, the first 3 or 4 years, I was terrible. And it's because I had not given up the athlete side of me, where that side is really, really hard to let go of. And it was seeping into my business to where it was like let's say you're a client of mine, right? In title, you can see by just looking up numbers if you're using me or not. And if I saw a client was like using me and then another person, I would just get off the handle furious, right? Because it was a competitive side of me. And I had to kind of work through that and work through the competitive side and put it in a good direction, because you always have to have competitiveness. That's what runs this industry. But you also have to like harness it. And that for me is as an athlete, and having that mentality constantly is really good to have, but you also have to like kind of bottle it up and use it in certain ways. I played quarterback, so for me, that's what helps me out the most, is like I like to set people up, and that's why my quote is always delegate to dominate. So I like seeing different things and seeing what people are good at and letting them run with that, and letting them kind of run the show if they want. But it's definitely tough. Like I said, like we talked about earlier, the athlete side and getting out of that, that's why it's so tough for a lot of these guys to get out of it, because your life is essentially structured for, half your life. Yeah. And then you wake up one day and there's not a practice you have to go to. There's not, scheduled weight training. There's not, someone telling you what to do. Sure. And so, the most determined person without some sort of bearing will get off the rails sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's so interesting because when we talk about an athlete, and I've never really been an athlete to any degree at all. But, I've been an entrepreneur for a really long time, and I understand entrepreneurship. So I look at things with kind of the lens of like, I'm curious, And when you look at athletes, it's always been interesting to me, like how some of these dudes, they make so much money, they're in the spotlight, they got all the fortune, all the fame, and then all of a sudden, they're in the real world eventually, whether they get injured or they eventually just have to, their old age, they've got to get out of the sport or whatever it is. And, so many times you see these guys that they were such a phenomenal athlete, and they're so bad at like business, or they're horrible at like at the other side of the world, right? Yeah. And it's like, why do you think that is? I mean, you see, these dudes, they'll be depressed, they'll be whatever it is after they're done being an athlete. It's like you would think they would be a phenomenal business person like day one.
Right.
Like you would think, right? Yeah. You would look at them and be like, man, like if that guy applied that same level of grit and resilience and just sheer like tenacity to like being an entrepreneur, you'd think they just dominate it. And a lot of times they don't. Why do you think that is?
I think it's the payoff. I think a lot of it is, again, athletes, again, I say the word high, and like when you go out on the field or you get cheered for or something like that, there's literally, I'm telling you, there's nothing that can compare to that, right? And so if you're telling someone that the payoff is going to be a check for someone who's already made a ton of money, that's not going to really get them going. If there's another payoff, like they're going to help out, their family, or, they're going to do something else, then there might be some good stuff. The biggest thing is, what is their why? Like, why are they doing it? If they're doing it just because they need to get a check and they need to, fend for themselves, then a lot of the times you're not going to have too much success. But I think the biggest thing is that lost feeling that they get, that a lot of athletes get when they get done playing, because there's no next step. Now, it's gotten a ton better, because a lot of these leagues are now forcing these guys to figure out their finances and, making sure that they're set up long term, and making sure some of the healthcare stuff is there. But it's still in its primitive stages, because a lot of these guys do get out. I mean, people would be surprised. I mean, Scottsdale is a huge market for retired and current athletes. It just is. There's a ton of athletes here. But you would be surprised how many athletes would be considered in the general admission. Like they're not, they don't have the booth. They're sitting, with the rest of us. Yeah. Just because, again, of how they set their life up. And I told you this before we got started. I've seen people blow $150,000 signing bonuses on a dinner like that. And it's like, that stuff eventually runs out. A lot of these athlete careers are 2 to 4 years max. So if I was to tell you, hey, Austin, you have a great setup, but from 26 to 29 is the only time you can make money, you would start freaking out, and you would start being like, oh my gosh. But say that first couple years you made a ton of money, you're not going to really worry about till you get out of it, right? And so that's the thing, is a lot of these guys don't have the opportunity to kind of have that foresight, and they don't have a lot of good people around them that are telling them like, hey, this is what you should do. But it is getting better. I can see that some of these leagues are making sure that these athletes don't, end up on the wrong side.
I've seen it get a lot better too, and I don't even follow sports that much. So that's saying something, that I've seen, a lot of these dudes that are, they just seem more entrepreneurial, even while they're an athlete, you know, which obviously is going to set them up.
Well, now it's like the NIL stuff. Right. I mean, if you start having to deal with business and you're in college and you have to start thinking about things in a strategic, like, contract manner, you're going to get better at things. It's but again, I always say, people always say like, oh, money doesn't buy happiness. Well, you know what? Money makes it easier to be sad, though. Sure. Like, it makes a lot of these problems, like, someone who has money, if they're having, and I had this last week, it was Wednesday, and it was like by 10:30, there was like 6 things that went wrong. And I'm the type of person, like, if I'm not feeling, I'm going to shut things down, because I just know I'm not going to do anything better that day. I just need to give my body time and my mind time to decompress. I have that ability because I have a team in place, and I can shut it off. Now, if you're a person that can't shut it off because you're working, a 9 to 5, or you're a doctor, or you're a nurse, or whatever, and you can't do that, then that problem that you feel inside, or maybe you're not having that good of a day, you can't do anything about it. And so for me, like, I agree with people that say, there's a lot of millionaires that are depressed, but I'm telling you, a lot of them have the ability to at least try to make it better through the fact, of having some money. Sure. And so, for sure, it's just, but I think, again, the education piece with a lot of these athletes is getting better, just through NIL and the ability to make money off of your name, image, and likeness. It's just getting better.
I agree. Was it a hard transition? Like, you talk about, for the first several years of you getting injured, then to, obviously having this realization, and we talked about it a bit before the podcast, where it's like, a lot of times an athlete, an entrepreneur, whatever, anybody that has a desire to be legendary, they typically, in order to do so, you were talking about like burning the boats, right? And not having a plan B. It's like plan A or plan A, right? Yeah. Well, all of a sudden, though, you're an athlete. Here you are, for example, and plan A is gone, right? It's like, and it's not like it was your decision. It actually got taken, right?
Right.
And I feel like that is, it happens to viewers watching. It's happened to me. It happens to people all the time, where maybe they get into an industry and that industry just goes to, it's just the wrong time, or they get into a multi-level marketing company. It's just the wrong company. They think it's the right company. It's the wrong company, whatever it might be. And all of a sudden that gets pulled away. Like, what did that transition look like for you? You said it took a couple of years and you struggled mentally.
I was not good. And I'll say that by my standards, I was not good. I was just average for a title rep out in Southern California. I was okay. But for me, in my family, being okay is not, especially when you have a dad who's a high level person in your own industry. So I think for me, what ended up shifting was I had a very micro mindset instead of, because a lot of people that are in real estate that are in states that are not title and escrow is separate won't understand this, but most reps in Southern California have one area that they're only allowed to focus on. This is like the old school, like you have, let's say you have Phoenix, but there's another rep in your same company that reps Scottsdale. So if there's a client over here in Scottsdale that you want to work with, technically you can't because there's another rep over here, right? And so my thing was always like, I was always very, very into social media. So I would connect up with different realtors in San Diego and all these different areas. And they'd be like, hey man, like, you know, whatever you posted today, like really helped me. And the information you're giving out, it's helping me. Like, how can we work together? I was like, man, like I can't because you're not in my area. And when I kind of flipped that on its head and I started asking our industry leaders, and I was just like, why can't you work with whoever you want, no matter if you provide a service that's helping them and you're helping them get better in their business, why can't you? And a lot of people were like, I don't know, like no one's ever really thought of that because they just hadn't done it. And so for me, I went to my company and I just said, hey, listen, I'm gonna suck for like a couple years because I'm building something that's different than anyone else is doing. I'm gonna be working with people who are all over and people that fit my, like me, this is, what I'm wearing right now is what I show up to rep. I do not show up in a suit and tie. I do wear a suit and tie sometimes, but
I've seen you in a nice suit and tie.
Yeah,
before.
I do. But my thing is this, like, I want to show up to an office and I want the person to see me as I am, and that's who they're going to be working with. Because when I first moved out, because I live in Orange County, one of the first things that a lot of managers told me out there is like, dude, don't let people see your tattoos because they're not going to work with you. Because our median realtor age in my area is 55.
Wow.
Okay. So I hit it for the first like 2 years. I was just like wore long suits, long everything, right? And then one day I had a client see me at a store. Like I was getting groceries. He was like, hey man, dude, I love your tattoos. Look at this one. And he like he had this big piece and whatever. And I was like, and it kind of hit me. I was like, why am I like, this is who I am. This is who that person's going to be working with. And hopefully it's a long-term relationship. Why not show them that? So
if you're a real estate agent or a real estate investor, one of my favorite tools that I use every single day in my own personal real estate companies is www.topredata.com. Top RE Data, you can actually get a 7-day free trial, and there are so many different amazing features you can do with this particular software. This is how we comp a lot of our properties. This is how we skip trace a lot of owners, how we get in touch with people, how we identify leads, do all kinds of different research on all the different properties. They have mobile, they have desktop, and there's comprehensive data nationwide, which is incredible. You can do just about anything with topredata.com. You can find divorces, you can find tax defaults, you can literally find any kind of data that you're looking for, get information, get owner information, contact information. You can even automate different things. You can target different things and even build out your entire team with topredata.com. So again, if you're a real estate agent or a real estate investor and you are interested, make sure to go ahead and sign up for your free trial for 7 days at www.topredata.com.
Again, it took a long time because I had a large, again, that's why I love watching your stuff so much, is like when you post your goals, right? And someone clicks through because they're like, dude, that's crazy. Like, I want to do $1 billion in real estate right now? What?
Right.
No, I'm clicking through that. Me, I'm like holding on it because I want to save it. I'm like, that's the type of people I need to be working with. Like me, I want to own a title company, and I will. I have a plan to do it, right? And so I know what it takes, so I just knew early on I was not going to do well, but I had a plan in place, and I just had to keep, people, my managers like, hey, listen, this is going to turn over. I promise. Yeah. I promise. And when it started turning over, they were like, hey, like, we're really happy this finally happened.
For sure. So it sounds like a lot of like your success is just a derivative of like your belief, right? And then, really just your ability to see things through and keep on keeping on. Like there was a lot of things you had to work through mentally, right? Realizations, like you said, you went from that micro mindset to like this like macro mindset, and a lot of people, I think they give up, right? They give up too soon. I think, in my opinion, that might be the number one reason why people fail is just simply, had they just kept doing it, they probably would have eventually succeeded. And that really applies to anybody, right? Like, what do you attribute that to, like the way you were raised, being an athlete? Like, where did that kind of like longevity belief?
I think it was the athlete thing, but I think it was the way I was raised too. It was like really, our parents early on were just like, dude, we don't care. Just do the work, and you're eventually going to get somewhere. It might not be where you think you're going to be. It's the same thing. Like, you run a real estate office, right? When I speak at offices, which I do constantly, I'll have people come up to me, fresh realtors, and they'll say, how do I get my first deal? And I'll call my assistant, and I'll say, hey, get this, or she's gonna pull some data for you. The agent's gonna pay her for it because we don't want to get in trouble. And all you got to do is call around an area and talk to people about real estate. That is it. That's how you get your first deal. Call 250 people. I guarantee you're going to have 5 or 6 good conversations. And you're going to have some deals come out of it. You know what 95% of realtors will say to you? They'll be like, okay, but what else?
Right.
What else is there? You're like, no, that's the work. Like, real estate comes down to one thing. It's conversations. I told you about this when we started working together. The more times that we can get your team on the phone and have a conversation with someone, we'll win.
100%.
Conversations lead to closes. If there's a metric to use in real estate, I don't care what the market's doing. I don't care what rates are. The more times you talk with people in your area about real estate, not necessarily their property. Like, that's what I tell people. Like, and this is one of the things I wanted to talk with you about, because it's something you give out so much, which is value. If you lead with value in every situation, you will win.
100%.
Like, I'll tell everyone here, I slid in Austin's DM, I don't know how many times before he got back to me. And you know what happened? I led with value. Hey, here's what I want to do with your team. I want to make you guys some money. Here's how we're going to do it. Oh, okay, man. And that was not because you didn't want to talk. You're busy, right? And so if anyone is trying to get into, this line of work or entrepreneurship in general, like, if you just start to lead with value with people who are already doing it, you're most of the time going to get the roadmap for success, And that's the thing, is you just got to stick to this.
I love that. Dude, I think that's actually one thing that you and me see really eye to eye on is conversations, man. Like, I literally sometimes think I just sound like a broken record, because, like, and I think it applies to every industry. But it's like, life, literally business, life, nothing can happen without two people having a conversation. If you think about anything, any infomercial you've ever seen, like, I get that nowadays you can go to a website and click a button, but really you're talking, like, they're just selling you through copy and whatever, right? So, but it's like, things happen through conversation, right? And so
relationships happen through conversation.
Dude.
How do you think man and woman only get together once there's a conversation to be made. You
Agreed.
can do all the apps, you can do this, you can do that. You have to meet someone and talk with them. You have you have to find out kind of what they're about. And if you have enough conversations with people, you are going to, even if you don't get a deal, you're going to get better at your craft too. And that's the other thing is like, that's why on the partnerships we have in all these different markets, which your team did a great job of, is I don't want to know, is there a deal there or is not? I want to know how the conversation went. Like put in the notes how, all right, yeah, we talked about where their property value is. I'm going to check back in a month. Also going to send them a CMA or like whatever that conversation is, because that gives us valuable insight on the data side of who we should be targeting more for you guys to have better conversations. It all comes down to that. If we can get you guys with more people that, you know are going to know, like, and trust you, we're going to get deals. Like that's just a fact of the matter, you know?
Why do you think, I mean, so you're dead accurate. You know, it's about leading with value and talking to as many people as you can. It's something I preach every day to my team. I preach it on social media. I'm like, look, like if you're on an elevator with somebody, if you're in a line at Starbucks, like wherever you are in the world, be talking to people. Be genuinely interested in them. Provide value. Like providing value might be giving them a compliment while you're standing in the line waiting for your coffee and just sparking a conversation with them, figuring out what their needs are and getting to know them. Follow them on social media. Like, you know, interact with them, like their photos. I mean, one thing will lead to the next, right? So why do you think, in your opinion, we live in a day and an age where it feels to me at least like success is so gosh darn simple. I mean, you could almost summarize it up to that right there, what we just talked about, right? Yet people don't freaking do it. Why is that?
I think it's the plus and minus of our society right now. Everything is so attainable by a very simple click, right? Like this morning, I was running around because I got in late, and I wanted breakfast before I got over here, right? And just boom, something was at my door in 15 minutes, right? And so that really transitions itself into all facets because we think that it's just supposed to happen like that, right? We just think it's supposed to be that easy. All right, well, I watched $1 Million Listing. Like if they can do it, I can do it. But I think what you said is important, where it's like, whatever field you want to get into or whatever success level you want to get into, you can get there by just gaining enough knowledge to then just start applying it yourself. Like for me, Adrian, who we talked about earlier, when they started doing wholesale and flipping, and they're doing stuff throughout the country, I was doing their title work, and I was just seeing how many deals they were doing. And I told him and Nick, I was like, hey, I want to take you guys out to dinner, and I just want to learn what you're doing. Because I had no idea what wholesaling was. Because I was a title rep. I was very single-minded, right? And I was doing well. So, but once I went to their event and kind of consumed the information, I was like, wait a second. Like, not only could I implement this in other markets, not in my own, but this is going to make me better at my job, because I'm going to be able to tell people, hey, the hedge funds are buying like this, you know, because when you're in the wholesaling world, that's what you're beholden to. You're beholden to who's buying, right? Sure. And so you start to figure that out. But I would have never had the 2 or 3 other streams of income I do now, because I wasn't going to have that initial knowledge of like, all right, well, we can still go into these other markets and help people out. And then I've done that 3 or 4 times, and they've said, hey, you know, we have a client in Southern California that would love to use you for title. And it's just like, you would have never had those situations like we talked about earlier with Eric. Like, I would have never ran into that if I didn't first become super curious about, you know, some of these people's success, you know. But I led, the first thing I did with yourself, with a lot of these people, like the thing I posted yesterday, we started working with someone in Vegas last week. He already has 3 listing appointments. Wow. But I slid into his DM. I said, hey, what's your email? I'm going to send you some leads. Yeah. And then I got the conversation. Right. I didn't first ask him like, hey, do you have 30 minutes of your time? Like, no, he's busy. And he doesn't know me from someone in the coffee shop, right? Yeah. But as soon as that happened and he knew I was legit, he was just like, oh, okay, yeah, like let's have a conversation, because I want. So that's the biggest thing, is there's not enough patience, right? And there's not enough patience in the time it takes, because for every you, there's 50 other people that gave up, you know, their first year in and just didn't kind of keep going, and
Sure.
they're now moving on to different. And I know you and I have talked about this, like that guru culture of like moving on to different hustles, right? And it's like,
Man.
that gets rough, you know, that gets
Yeah.
rough. And that's such an interesting subject just because of the fact that, you know, gurus are needed. They're needed because I think they show that that this can be done, but I don't know if they necessarily show it in the way that it should be done, right?
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you just said, like 100%. And you brought up something that I kind of want to touch on too, which is like how people nowadays, and it goes hand in hand with kind of this idea of everything should come easy, right?
Right.
And you were saying, but it's like, and I get this all the time, and I've actually had conversations with other people about it, where people nowadays, it's the weirdest thing, but they will, dude, I get it. I'll bet you I get 10 DMs a day or messages on whatever platform where people are like, hey man, and you know, basically in a nutshell, they'll say something to the effect of, I'd love to take you to lunch or buy you a cup of coffee and pick your brain, right? And I get this 10 times a day. And it's the number one thing I think that I get, right? Is I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee or take you to lunch and pick your brain, almost verbatim, right?
Right.
And man, I'm somebody who really loves to provide value. Don't get me wrong. I love to pour into people. I love to help people, man. But you know, I would imagine that you see this on an even bigger level. You know, you see people that are, you know, way above our level, you know, hitting up Joe Rogan or, you know, whoever. You probably see it at every level.
Right.
You know, and it's like, well, and it goes exactly with what you're saying. It's like, you know, when you hit somebody up, you're like, dude, what's your email? I'm going to send you leads like right now, right?
Yeah.
You're not like, hey, bro, let me buy you a $5 cup of coffee and pick your brain for a half an hour.
Yeah.
It's like, where's the like, where do people get off thinking that that's the way to go about it? Does it just tie right back into?
I think I really think it's just the immediacy of like what we have in a society right now. It's just everything a lot of that 22 fresh out of college to like 30 is that, oh, okay, well, yeah, I can just take you out, right? I could just, you know, we could just sit down and have a conversation. And it's bad to say, but it's like my time is worth more than that hour that I would spend doing that. But again, I would tell people like that there's 10 other ways that you can get to that person that are going to be not only more valuable for you, but more valuable for them, and are going to lead to a better relationship than you just sitting down and talking to them about coffee. Because the thing is everything you're really good at is, and again, you have like 10 different things going, but that person, like when I sat down with Adrian and Nick, I literally picked their brain, but I spent most of my nights on YouTube. You can literally learn, I'm telling you, you can learn anything on YouTube if you apply yourself enough, right? Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to the higher level stuff, like finding buyers, having the right buyers, seeing who's actually doing it. Now, that's when you get into real value type of conversations, right? But again, that person can go through by like, what I always do is look at what a person makes money from. Like for you, if I was to help someone on your team become really good, right? And they're doing a lot more deals, guess who's making more money? Your bottom line, right? Yep. And so you're going to go to that person.
And my team's winning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're going to go to that person and be like, hey, what happened? Like, dude, I linked up with Anthony. He showed me like these 3 strategies and it's working.
I'm immediately going to give you a call.
Right. And be like,
I'm going to be like, hey, bro.
Hey, like, what's up?
Yeah.
You need to come and really help out the rest of my team. That's how, like, there's a couple of large real estate teams, again, on the title side in Orange County. The way that I got relationships with them is I helped out their team because that affected their bottom line. And then when I helped out the team member was so happy that they were like, what can I do? How can I help you? I'm like, just give me an introduction. Just tell them that I helped you. So there's ways to do it, but everything I just told you involves like long-term work and long-term buy-in to your idea. And like a lot of people say that they believe in their mission, their goal, their whatever, but they won't really put in like all right, well, you're going to have to suck for like, you know, like my business partner, he's actually flying out here right now because we're looking at that suite. He is fresh out of college, but he is fantastic because like I told you, delegate to dominate. I've learned what I'm not good at. I know I'm not good organizationally at like not just throwing money at things. I have a problem with like, oh yeah, we have to double subscribe because we forgot. Oh, okay, yeah, just throw the card on it. Yeah. I needed someone who was going to put our operation together, put it in spreadsheets, like do all that while I did stuff like this, because this is what my strong point is. And that's, again, that's one of the other things I think is really lacking, is people don't understand that they have limitations in certain areas. Like, you're going to be good at something and you're going to be not good at other things.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, back to my partner, I told him, I'm like, hey, we're going to suck for like 3 or 4 months and there's going to be no paydays. But I'm telling you, we can grow this to 50, 100,000 a month just through my connections and your ability to wrangle everyone together.
Yeah.
Just stay with me. And our first wholesale that we closed last week in Vegas, it was, you know, $8,000 because we're partnering, we're JVing with people. I just gave it to him. And I was like, hey, I told you this is going to happen. You just got to stick to the plan. Right. And so I really think it's just that ability to stick with things, like you said, is tough for people.
I couldn't agree more. And I think you said another great thing, which is just, you know, following through, like playing the long game. You mentioned, you know, and it all ties into what you kind of been talking about, but it really is about, okay, you know, what's my long-term vision? And then am I willing to play the long game to get to that vision, right? Yeah. And actually truly sacrifice and so on and so forth. And you brought up another good thing that I liked a lot. I've always talked about, like, there's all these different ways, kind of how you're talking, how you can, you know, get that relationship you're trying to get, but without doing it the way that I was kind of mentioning people do it a lot of times. And you brought it up in a roundabout way, something that I always used to tell people. I'm like, man, like you said, you could just if you can straight up just provide value, like you're saying, like do that, right? Another really good method, and it kind of piggies back off of like what you were saying about going after like one of their team members and helping them out to get to the main guy. Another thing is take the main guy and it's like, who do they need to know? Who do you know right now that they need to know? Right. And lead with a relationship. Right. It's like, yo, hey, Anthony, I know we don't know each other. I've been following you for a year. Dude, I got a guy, a buddy of mine, and I make it all about that guy, right? Yeah. And it's like, here's why you need to know him. I'd love to connect the two of you. So it has nothing to do with me, right? Right. But all of a sudden, you hit it off with that guy. You guys build a phenomenal relationship, and who's the dude that connected the two of you? You know? Yeah, and then you become kind of that tastemaker, that person who's, I call it like a promoter. Like, you just know everyone. Like, oh, okay, well, how does he know everyone? Like, I need to know him, right? And that's where that value lies. But again, that takes long-term, like really knowing exactly not only what you need to do, but who you need to do it with. You know, from your side, kind of, what are you looking for with your people that you have in your organization? In terms of like who you partner with, does it come down to like, for me, I only have 2 things I look for. Like, are there multiple things? I know people do disc tests now, which is little. Dude, my main thing. So I've built. I've probably had 1,000 people work for me over the course of the last decade, give or take. Right. You know, I've started a bunch of companies. I think I've failed miserably, right? Like, I've failed more times than, you know, most people have ever tried, and at least at my age. And so for me now, it's all about the heart. Like, when I hire, when I partner, when I do anything, man, like with another human being that has a heartbeat, I tell them immediately, basically, to throw their resume in the trash, and I want to know their heart. Like, and what I mean by that is, like, who are they as a human being? Right. What are they doing on Sunday? What are they doing, you know, at nighttime? What are they doing in the morning? What are their habits? Like, what's their relationship like with their family? What's their relationship like with their kids, with their girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife? Are they stepping out on their husband or their wife? Are they cheating on their husband or their wife? Are they somebody that would never even think about doing something like that, right? Like, where's their heart at? And their heart, because the thing is that I've learned, or at least this applies to me, is that I can almost teach anything, but I can't teach the heart. Yeah. Dude, I could teach you how to sell real estate, man. I can teach you how to be, I can teach people how to do anything that I know how to do, right? Yeah. I can teach somebody that wants to learn, that is eager to learn, that has the desire to learn, I can teach. But not if their heart's not in the right place. If their heart's not in the right place, or they don't have the right heart, and they're just straight up not a loyal human being.
Right.
They're not a hardworking human being. They're not fill in the blank. Then I could give all my energy, my heart, and my soul to that person, and they'll never pick it up.
Right.
You know, so that's what I look for. I think the other thing you said it best, and we could actually pivot the conversation and talk a little bit. I think it's actually an important conversation. I'm sure you've read the book called Rocket Fuel, or at least heard of it. Yeah. And you brought up kind of that, well, in a roundabout way, you brought up the visionary and integrator role, right? And so I think that's another thing when you know, and you probably do the same. When I'm looking nowadays to do anything, right? It is, man, I know what I'm good at now. I also know, to your point a little while ago, that I'm really limited on my bandwidth. You know, I can barely reply to a DM. And as much as I want to, man, I really do. I want to talk to everybody on my team every day. I want to talk to my family every day, my friends every day.
I just went to your girl. I was just like, hey, listen, where's Austin at?
For real, man.
You know?
And I can't, you know, and I'm at a place now where I can't. I can try as hard as I want, but I'll run myself into a brick wall. And I've done it before, where I actually end up hating my life because I'm trying to please everybody, right? Yeah. And so I think now it's about like who gets that and who's willing to go on that journey with me, and then what are they bringing to the table that I'm not? Like how do we work together in harmony, right? And so I don't know. I think it's a combination of stuff, but I think it's all the same things that you would preach. Yeah. If I'm not wrong, you know.
My only two is communication and trust. That's what
which is a hard.
Exactly. No, but that's what I found. When we do JVs and we have a very simple JV contract, it basically says don't lie to us. Like that's really like when my business partner Gabby sends our stuff out, he's like, hey, this is like really simple. I'm like, just send it. Like I just want that. The hardest thing we do because of the profession we chose as real estate is, unfortunately and fortunately, there are large paydays. There just are. So you do have to see who you're partnered up with, and also like know that they're working as hard as you are, you know, and the buy-in is the same. So I just look for communication and trust. And for me, going into a relationship, I do this in all forms of my life. You have 1000% trust for me.
Yeah.
But I am, and I'm sure you're like this, I am extremely quick to cut bait. Like the first sign I see, I'm done. I'm out. Because to me, early on is the honeymoon phase. Yeah. Like we should both be doing stuff to make sure that everything is going great, right? And so if you're going to let something slip early on, I just know that it's just going to get worse from there. So we really just look for that the communication and trust. But I think the biggest thing in entrepreneurship is what you talked about, which is knowing your strengths and weaknesses. And again, you don't find that out until you failed and done a bunch of stuff. Me, it took, again, I've failed. I posted this. One of my most reacted to posts ever was a screenshot of my bank account in 2019 where I was negative $248.55. The only reason I was negative was because I was buying stuff for my dog, who's the only person that matters.
I love
okay,
that.
So, but I posted that and I just told people, and this was last year because I got a large bonus from my company and I was doing really well. But I just wanted people to see, like, when I was posting around that time, I might have looked like I had everything together, right? Yeah. But in reality, everyone's going through something, you know, and you never know who has that negative $248 in their account, right?
That looks like they got it all.
It looks like they got it all. At that time I had a Porsche. I lived by the beach. I was doing well. But that started to teach me, okay, well, how did I end up here? And it was a lack of commitment to what I was doing. And the other thing was like, I wasn't pressing hard on what I was good at and then trying to find avenues to make sure that what I wasn't good at was still taken care of. Because I think the biggest thing is when people find out what they're not good at, they just ignore it. They're just like, oh, okay, well, I can't do that. I'm not good at that. So like realtors.
I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, realtor follow-up.
Right.
Like I can't. So in the past 2 months, we've sourced 438 leads throughout the country. Okay. And I will tell you that half the time, the realtors we partner with or someone we partner with will just call the person one time and then never talk to them again.
If you've ever wondered where we skip trace all of our data, we actually use batchskiptracing.com. We skip trace millions of records on a monthly and annual basis, and this is how we do the wholesale volume that we do. This is also how we do so much volume in the retail real estate industry as well. Without good contact information, how are you ever supposed to get a hold of the homeowner? Again, we use batchskiptracing.com for all of our skip tracing solutions. And as you can tell, Batch has the best quality data in the industry. And good quality data is arguably one of the most important things that you can have as a real estate agent or real estate investor. When you use batchskiptracing.com, before you check out, make sure to use the discount code Zaback, Z-A-B-A-C-K, for a discount. Let's get back to the show.
Again, that's why I think that finding what you're good at, and then delegating the rest. That's why my business partner and I work so well together, because it's like he's very data heavy, analytical, loves Google Sheets. I'm like the exact opposite, but I'm big time. I'll shoot him a text during the day like, hey, we should do this. And he's like, dude, that's really big. I'm like, no, put it in. We're doing it. So it's like, you need that yin and yang. Same thing with the relationship. You need like someone who, you can't have two people who run hot all the time. Yeah. You know, you can't have that. So I think that's one of the biggest things that people, it takes a long time for them to realize is what they're good at. And it sounds so simple, but it's really like, it's difficult to find.
It is, man. It is. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I know we even talked about before the show, and one of your big things, your motto is literally delegation, right? And I think it's so crucial. You know, you can't succeed at anything in life without doing it with other people. That's how I always refer to it as, right? I'm like, look, there's a lot of people nowadays that I think they want to sit in their living room and just become a millionaire or a billionaire or whatever they're trying to do, all by themselves on their laptop, or they're in Bali, you know, or whatever. Yeah. It's like, look, I get that, you know, and you could probably achieve a certain level of success all by yourself, right? With not a single other human being, you know. But at a point, in order to get to the next level, if a person wants to get to that next level, you've got to do it with people, right? And like you said, if you're going to do it with people, then, I mean, it's not like you're all doing the same thing. Yeah. You know, you got to split, divide, and conquer, right? Yeah. So it's like you say, it's delegation. So if you're a visionary, then who's the integrator? If you're an integrator, who's the visionary, right? And I think, man, a lot of people don't have that figured out. I didn't have that figured out for a long time.
I really think, especially now, again, that 22 to 30-year-old range, the guru thing does a lot of good stuff. The only problem I have with that culture in that lane on Instagram is it's always just the guru. It's always just them in every picture, in every post, they do not show the partners they have, the 15 VAs they have running their, their stuff. So that's the only thing. I have no problem with people showing that they make money. In fact, I love it. Yeah. Because I think that shows people like,
here's what's possible.
I think a lot of what I like to see is like, well, if that guy can do it, I can do it. Or if that's possible, I can get there. Let me just find out my way of getting there. I don't have to get there like he did, but let me find it out. The only thing I don't like is not showing your team and not showing how you really do it. Because posting screenshots of your account or screenshots of what you're doing, like that really doesn't do anything. That's why when I posted that check last week, my next post was like, here's the 3 people that actually did this deal. I didn't. Yep. Here's, my disposition person, acquisitions, like we have VAs, like that's who really did this deal. So I think if people saw more of how the meat was made and not, the bling, it would change their idea of entrepreneurship, where it was like, hey, yeah, you do get to a certain spot like me. I work remotely probably more than half the time. But also there's times where I'm like tied to my desk for 15 hours at a time, So it's like, you got to show both. And I don't see, especially in our given industry, it's tough for people to show that. And,
I agree.
That's why it paints a different picture than it should be.
Yeah, man, the guru industry. I've talked a lot about that. You know, it's
And this is a
dude,
hub for the guru industry.
oh my God, dude, Arizona. I for a long time I hated it. You know, I was like, man, like I don't like it. And now I think it's just about, I don't know, dude. I'm at a point where like I know I can see right through the crap.
Yeah.
So like I know who's real, who's not real, and I don't care. I don't talk badly about anybody, but I'm not gonna go like support it or whatever. I don't know. I kind of try to stay in my own lane, you know.
Yeah.
And for the good or for the bad, it's just kind of where I've been at for like quite a while.
But that's the thing, is like everyone is gonna have their way of for me. If I travel, I'm going to show you I'm traveling, and I'm going to show you the expensive stuff I'm doing, because you know why? Because I put in the time, the effort, but I also showed you the terrible times too. And I just don't like the one color of everything.
Right.
Like you don't just show, you know, everything good. Like let's show the bad too. Like let's show the fact that, you know, you don't get to see your family that much, or, you know, all that other stuff. So I think if it was just more transparent, which again, that's what we want in anything. That's why I love it in real estate, because on the title side, we can see
it's all transparent,
all your business.
Right.
So the person that's saying, "Oh yeah, we did this," I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Yeah.
I'll pull it up right in front of them. I have no shame. I'll be like, "Hey, well, this shows you did 2 deals all of last year."
Sure.
Oh well, you know. So it's like,
right.
I can call that, just like you said. I can see that from a mile away. But again, I'm always the type of person that I want to be up front, and I want to be transparent with my clients, my partners. I tell my partners all the time, hey, when I was building this, from when I got done playing when I was 28.
Yep.
I was building from 28 to like 2 years ago. So like 33, 34. I'm having fun now. Like, but let me tell you, you will get emails from me at 12:30 at night with leads and stuff that we're going to be doing and all this stuff. Like, there will never be a time, any of the partners that I'm in business with, you'll be like, hey, he's out, but we haven't gotten X done.
Right.
Like, that'll never happen. But again, I tell my partners all the time, I'm single. I can only do it like once a month now, because I get hungover for like 2 days now. My body just can't recover. I like to have fun, and I like to travel, and I like to do that stuff. But I think if you're the type of person that's transparent, like I told you, honesty and communication. If you are honest and you communicate with the people that you're in business with, like, you should have no issues.
Yeah.
You know, but again, I think people just see an opportunity to make money, and they just dive into it without getting to, like you said, getting to know the person. Like,
100%.
all right, who am I? That's one of the main reasons that I try to partner up with you, because I'm like, I know for a fact if we send stuff over there, it's going to get taken care of.
For sure.
Like, and I may not get a hold of Austin, but someone on his team is going to get a hold of me, and someone's going to tell me like what's going on. So I don't have to worry about his infrastructure. I don't have to worry about where these leads are going or if they're getting called on, because I know he has that set up. When he has the bandwidth, he'll get back to me.
100%.
Like, but again, not a lot of people have that perspective. And I might not have 2 years ago, right? Because I didn't understand the running multiple businesses at one time, because I wasn't. Yeah. Now that I am, I'm like, hey, he'll get back to me when he gets back to me, but he has an infrastructure that I can, you know, trust.
Yeah. That's what's awesome about building an incredible team, an incredible culture, you know, is that you get to, you really do get to do more. I mean, I think that's what it really is. I mean, you know, when you build this big team and you have this, you know, ton of people that you can, like you said, that you can trust and that are good communicators, the heart, right? Yeah. You know, that's what allows Elon to do Tesla and SpaceX and all of the things. Is what allows Jeff Bezos to do all of the things. I mean, when you see, because we've all read that book where it's like the one thing, right? And the thing that I don't agree with about that book, and I haven't read it in a while, I got to go back and reread it probably, but it's like,
people lie about their one thing.
Yeah, but exactly. And it's also like, well, okay, you can only do one thing, right? But it's like, you can build a team. So to your favorite motto of like delegation, right? Yeah. It's like at the right time, when the right time comes along and you get really good at that one thing, right?
Right.
Eventually you can build a team to where you can still be that good at that one thing and do another thing.
Yeah.
And another thing. The issue is people try to do all that too soon, I think. And I've been there, right? Where I try to do one thing. I'm really not the best at it yet. I really haven't gotten all the opportunity out of that one thing, right?
Right.
And now I'm starting another thing and another thing and another thing, or I'm jumping from this thing to that thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's where you got to be a little bit careful.
Yeah.
But man, when you build a team, like, so to your point, yeah, man, I'm able to do multiple things. Now, am I the best texter in the world or getting back at DMs? I'm not, right?
Yeah.
But it's also because I know that I have a team that'll handle it if
Yeah.
I drop the ball, right?
Yeah.
So I can go focus on other things. And I also know that, like, if you call me at 10 o'clock at night on my cell phone, I'll answer.
Yeah.
Because I know it's important, right?
Right.
So, yeah, dude, I think you're 100% right.
I think the biggest thing is, like we talked about earlier, is you have to have a why, but you actually have to have a why. And I think if you went to an office or anywhere and you ask them what their why is, 99% of people are going to say family and whatever. But a lot of the times it's not that. They have a different, really what
That's
gets
just
them.
what sounds good.
Okay, so I have a hilarious story for you. So when I was working with my dad is, again, he's top 1% in our company, makes over $1 million in title, which is insane. Really, really just top level. But title, like I said, in California is extremely competitive, like very competitive. So sales meetings at Tycor in SoCal used to be hilarious because our boss out there, he would read your numbers in front of everyone.
Right.
So it was like you were naked in front of people, right? And I remember this one meeting, and it was hilarious, but it taught me to be honest about your why. So our boss is going around reading people's numbers, and he's asking them like, oh, like, okay, well, you made X amount this month. Why do you do it? And he's going around, and there's like 20 reps. And like 9 reps in a row, it was like family and, I want to take them on a vacation. And it was like nine in a row.
Right.
And so my dad leans over to me and he goes, man, just one time, I want someone to say hookers and blow. Like just one time. And he didn't mean that, but he meant like
say anything.
These guys that are high level salespeople, some of them, it's like, I want to kill that guy. I want to be better than him. I just want to earn $1 more than that guy. But you can't say that. Or you can't say like, I like to party.
Yeah.
You can't say, because it's not,
Yeah, it's not socially.
Yeah. And it's, I think when people get real with themselves about what they are really doing it for, then they can be better. And the beauty of this is what I'll tell everyone. It can change.
I love that.
Your why can change over time. Like you, before your girlfriend, family, stuff like that. Like now that's the why, right? You're building something for something bigger, right? Before, it might have been something that could have been traveling. It could have been building a big company. It could have been whatever. Like that can change. Your why doesn't have to stay the same for your whole entire life, but make it yours.
Yeah,
like
I like that.
That's the big, like my why right now is I want to make as much money as possible. So hopefully when I find a girl, whatever year that happens in, I can really focus on that relationship, because a lot of relationships start off really, really well. And then when it gets serious, money becomes, that first weird conversation, right?
Sure.
Like, hey, how much do you make? How much do I make? Like, what are we going to do? I don't want that ever. I just want to have someone I really care about and build something, right? That's my why. I also love to go out and have a good time, because me daily is high stress level, because I'm trying to squeeze every ounce of talent I have out of myself, right? And so when I try to do that, I need a release once in a while. So I go out, I have fun, boom, I reset, and then I go, right? And I only do it like once or twice a month. But I think if people got really introspective and really sat down and been like, all right, this is really why I'm doing this. Why do I wake up and go try to sell 10 houses a month?
Right.
Like, why do I do that? And if it really is family and all that, that's fantastic. But I think that's just the answer that they think works in the meeting.
Yeah, it's just like what people want to hear. It's like, I'm gonna tell people what I think they want to hear.
Yeah, and it's like, when you start to become that type of person where you're always going to be true to yourself and what you really, really want. And that's why that that's why that quote was so funny for my dad, because I was like, yeah, probably some of these guys like to party. We're in high level sales. Like some of them probably do, but they're never going to say that because that's not what they're supposed to say, or that's not what they're supposed to want to do, or that, you know. And so it was just something that always taught me, like, hey, that can change. Like what you really want out of life can change, but don't ever lose the ability to tell yourself, like, hey, this is why I'm grinding. This is why I'm trying to sell this house, or get this Amazon store started, or whatever. Like, you know, I came to you and I was like, hey, I want to get into this, but what did I send you after? Right. Hey, my store's up. Hey, let's have a deeper conversation.
Sure.
So I took action. I didn't just wait for you to be like, oh, okay, well, let's do the X, Y, and Z. You need to do this. No, get it going.
100%.
And hit the ground running. And then when you can plug someone in and add some value to both sides, then all right, like, let's talk, you know? And so, but I think, again, at the end of the day, it's how do we really extract our why and then build off of that, and then start to really kind of develop that.
I agree, man. I agree 1,000,000%. I think that my why has changed quite a bit over the years. And it'll continue to change. I can feel it changing. You know?
I remember. Your multiple businesses, your business partners, like that, all that changes.
A lot of it changes, man. And I think, dude, a lot of people in the very beginning, if they were honest with themselves, their why is just to make a lot of money.
Right.
You know, I talk to a lot of people where I actually say, I'm like, dude, you just want to make a lot of money right now. Like, you could say it's about this, that, and the other thing, but like really, you just want to make a lot of money. You know, a lot of people that like are entrepreneurs and business oriented, that are younger, like you're saying, they're 20 to 30 years old or whatever, right? Yeah. Like they're not trying to do the new Tesla so we could, you know, the ocean stop, the iceberg stop. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to make a lot of money. Right. But like you said, they talk about how it's about this and that and the other thing. It's like, man, you just want to make a lot, which is fine, because what I've noticed, man, is when people end up making a lot of money, their why changes almost automatically. Right. Because anybody that's made a lot of money knows that a lot of money really, to your point earlier, like money does a lot of things, but money itself, without nothing else, like if you just have a bunch of money on this table, doesn't inherently make you happy, right? Now, what you can do with the money, that's a different conversation and whatever. But, man, I think you're so right about that. So I know that we're getting a little bit long on here, so I'll maybe do like one more question and then we'll wrap this one. But what's like the one thing, man, that you've seen in your life? It could be personally, professionally, in your business. It could be anything that has like allowed you to get to where you're at. And again, I mean, dude, it could be anything, man. It could be, you know, your faith. It could be your, you know, like maybe something that happened to you, something you saw along the way, something that, whatever, you know.
I think the biggest thing actually was my high school yearbook quote. I still have it as my signature on my emails. Is adversity causes some to break, others to break records. And no matter what, that's carried me through, because you could, and I tell this to all my partners that we do business with, hell, girls, I'll tell them, you could knock me down to 0 tomorrow. You could zero out my bank account, take all my credit cards away from me, and I will build it back up. So you are always going to run into adversity, no matter what. I've been dealing with, and I'm sure you've seen this, I've been dealing with stomach issues. I've been in the hospital 18 times over the past 2 years. Wow. Okay. And that was something to where that was knocking me down daily. Like daily I was having issues, but like you cannot let that stop your progress. And if you really want a long, stable, a really, really good entrepreneurship journey, you have to deal with adversity, because it's going to happen. Markets are going to change. I've been through 3. My family has, as we talked about earlier, my entire family's in real estate. So 06, 07, when people started losing everything, our family collapsed because everyone was in real estate, right? So that was the adversity. And those people are on the other side of it now, just 10 years ago. So you're going to run into adversity. You're going to have challenges, but whatever you want to do, if you stick to it and you really have the ability and the talent, you're going to win.
I love that, man. I think that's a mic drop. You know what I mean? Like in all reality, it applies to every area of life too. Yeah. dude, stuff is gonna happen, brother. I
Yeah,
love that,
dude.
I like that a lot.
You're going to have problems. I can guarantee you're gonna leave this, and there's gonna be some deal that's
For
going
sure.
sideways. I probably have a deal going sideways. Like that stuff's gonna happen, but you just have to have not only the fortitude to deal with it yourself, but the team around you to deal with it.
I agree, man. I agree. Well, dude, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. I know
Absolutely,
we can
man.
talk for hours.
Oh yeah, we could have been in here
for hours. and
Yeah,
hours.
we could have ran out the tape. For
100%.
Sure.
And we'll do an episode number 2 at some point. You
Oh,
know, and
absolutely.
We'll do a follow up.
Yeah.
So for anybody watching and listening, drop in the comment section below. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're on podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you're at, make sure to leave a 5-star review, subscribe, like, and then also give Anthony a follow. So where's your best platform? Is it IG?
IG.
Okay.
Touchdowns and title.
Touchdowns and title.
And we're gonna get Austin back to that house with the basketball court, and I'm gonna teach him how to shoot.
Maybe you guys have or haven't seen the video. If you haven't.
Go check that out. It's a good one. But we're gonna teach him how to shoot.
You got to go look at my TikTok.
Yeah.
I was in a rush. I didn't have time to redo it.
And he had a jacket on. We're
did.
gonna give him the pass.
I did. Guys, I'll put his information down below
Yeah.
too. So definitely go check out Anthony. And dude, I just appreciate you being here, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.